Scalapino. He's a powerful advisor for U.S. President, the White House, for East Asian policy and also Korean Peninsula. So now he speaks out to the people for Korean Peninsula and North and South at the peace talk and everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's a great privilege to be here, greet all of you, and to speak on the subject of North-South Korean relations and the role of the United States. Let me first of all say that I want to pay homage to Professor Rhee on the occasion of the launching of his new book on Asian millenarianism. It is a remarkably precise and detailed study of the Taiping and Ponghak rebellions in the 19th century and their impact upon contemporary Asia. Everyone should have the opportunity to read this work. Let me begin by saying that seldom in history have two parts of a common culture diverged so greatly since 1945. Whether the measurement be economic, political, or strategic, the difference between North and South Korea, as you know, has been enormous. Under Russian tutelage, North Korea entered into communism. But let me be frank with you, as I have viewed North Korea over the decades, far from being a revolutionary society, it has seemed to me the North has been a very traditional society. It has had an absolute monarchy with monarchical succession. It has practiced, to the extent possible, isolation in the manner of the traditional hermit kingdom. And it has, for the most part, kept its people outside the rapidly developing outer world, largely uninterested in or uninformed about conditions in the nations around it and in the globe. Thus, its challenge has been to try to preserve traditionalism to the extent possible in a revolutionary world. South Korea, on the contrary, under American tutelage, moved toward Western-style democracy, at first with grave difficulties, and entering into an authoritarian period under military leadership, as you know. But that military leadership was prescient with respect to economic policies. It turned outward, it opened the doors to economic intercourse, and it promoted the private sector. As a result, South Korea's economic development, after an initial period of stagnation, moved forward very rapidly. And out of that eventually came a change in the political system. As the economy moved forward, democracy became viable. And incidentally, that is not just a phenomenon of South Korea. It is true of a number of developing societies. That authoritarianism pursuing ultimately results in political change. We are even witnessing that in societies like China. Now let me turn from an analysis of the situation in North and South Korea domestically to the question of their relationship. As you know very well, in the opening decades after World War II, the relations between North and South Korea were minimal and largely, almost wholly, hostile. There were no connections or ties, and there were periodic insurgencies or hostilities, culminating, of course, in the Korean War. I might say that I think the United States made a tragic mistake when Secretary of State Dean Acheson announced in January of 1950 that our perimeter for security and defense went around the islands of the Pacific region, excluding South Korea from that perimeter. As a result, Kim Il-sung felt that he could unify the Korean Peninsula by force and that the United States would not intervene, or if it did, it would be too late. And that mistake cost all of us a great deal. In the aftermath of the Korean War, there was a natural tightness in North-South relations as both sides of Korea struggled with their domestic challenges. It was not until the advent of Kim Il-sung and his inauguration of the so-called Sunshine Policy that a new relationship began to very slowly and very partially unfold. The philosophy behind the Sunshine Policy was that the way to bring North Korea into the world was by trying to increase North-South economic and cultural relations. And this policy has continued under President Roman with the result of the Quezon Special Economic Zone, as you know, the visitation of large numbers of South Koreans to Mount Kumgang, the creation of exchanges with respect to divided families, although on a partial and often on-again basis, and other connections. However, the most dramatic moves have come in the very recent past. October 3rd, marking the summit meeting between Jong-un and Kim Jong-il, resulted in a series of agreements that related to expanding the Quezon Economic Zone and adding a new zone at Haiju, establishing a joint fishing area in the West Sea where there is disputed territory, moving forward with the rail modernization and crossing of the border, expanding joint family meetings, adding Mount Aktu to the area of tourism. Now, one of the critical questions on the table is, will this agreement be fully reciprocated by North Korea, will the North carry out its nuclear demilitarization policies and move in such a direction as to make this accommodation feasible? And I think on this score, while one may be cautiously optimistic, we must wait and see. And as you know very well, that accommodation, that agreement, was coupled with the results of the most recent six-party agreement announced on October 4th. Let me, by way of background, do a little quick analysis of American policies earlier. The Clinton administration, in its final months, as you know, made the first effort to reach out and see whether there could be any consultation and agreement with North Korea. And Secretary of State Albright spent some time in Pyongyang talking with Kim Jong-il and others. There was the beginnings of an agreement, but this agreement, which was not reached immediately, broke down over details and charges that the North had violated the terms of the agreement and had cheated on such matters as enriched uranium enrichment and certain other concerns. Consequently, when the Bush administration came into office, it announced that it was not going to pursue Clinton's policies, and it moved toward a much more hardline, forceful position on the North Korean issue. That policy continued until the recent past. Why the change in the Bush administration's policy toward more flexibility, toward dialogues both at the multilateral and bilateral levels, toward a willing participation in the Chinese-induced six-party talks? Why? I think the answers lie primarily in the huge costs, economic and political, of unilateralism in the Middle East and in certain other parts of the world. The Bush administration, in sum, wanted to move away from unilateralism because it induced a tremendous amount of anti-American sentiment globally, and toward a degree of flexibility, talking with other nations, pursuing joint policies, and being willing to talk with North Korea. The result, up to date, has been the October 4th agreement. Now that agreement also is very broad in nature, but at the same time more specific than any earlier agreement. As you know, North Korea has agreed to dismantle its nuclear forces and to convey information on all nuclear activities under IAEA and U.S. inspection by the end of 2007. In exchange, the United States and the other nations involved have agreed to provide incrementally 1 million tons of crude oil and gasoline, or its equivalent, in economic assistance. Now, I think the crucial element here are going to be two issues that must be continuously debated, discussed, and on which the evidence is clear. One is whether North Korea's actions can be confirmed. Absolutely and certainly. Will the inspection of the pledges and their execution, will the ratification of these be confirmed by in-depth and continuous inspection? The other is the question of timing. At what point should one party move and the other party react? It is clear that one of the issues on the table is the substitution of a peace treaty or peace agreement for the armistice. Legally, the Korean War is not over, and until there is a peace agreement, it will not be. But can such an agreement be reached, and what will its contents be? And in addition, will the United States and others abandon the economic restrictions on North Korea as it moves forward, if it moves forward? And will there also be a political opening, a gradual normalization of relations? In my view, one can be cautiously optimistic. Why? Because North Korea is in quite desperate condition. As you know, the serious floods of this year have probably induced a negative growth rate, and the economic situation is therefore dire. North Korea continues to be heavily dependent upon external aid, and its primary donors have, of course, been China and South Korea. But on occasion, the Chinese have indicated that they are not happy with Pyongyang, and they have temporarily tightened aid on several occasions, although not publicly. In my own discussion with Chinese scholars and certain officials, I discovered some time ago that privately the Chinese feel, or many Chinese feel, North Korea has been far too delayed in its economic changes, and that its political system is not Marxist-Leninist, but bizarre. But publicly, China continues to support North Korea. Why? Because it does not want a collapse of the North. It does not want hundreds of thousands of refugees pouring into northeast China. And it does not want South Korea with its American ally on the Yalu River to fought a war to prevent it. And so the Chinese continue to face this dilemma. But they have been instrumental in such matters as the six-party talks, and they will continue to be a very important and powerful actor. For all of these reasons, I say one can be cautiously optimistic, but caution is the word, because the issues to be resolved, the details, are still very complex, as I have indicated, and very difficult. Present North Korean leadership is dominated, in my opinion, by two terms: Songgong, or military first, and Chuche, or self-reliance. Those are the two themes over time that have dominated the political scene in the North. And both have got to be ultimately changed. How? At what speed? That we shall have to wait and see. But I think it's clear that isolation gradually, under some means or other, the people of North Korea will increasingly find out about the broad trends around them and be motivated by that fact. As for South Korea, my assumption is this. The South has always had three broad alternatives in trying to protect its sovereignty and independence. One, isolation, but that's no longer feasible. Two, balance, equal, friendly relations with all neighbors. The problem with that is that it didn't always work. First China in the 19th century, and then Japan in the 20th century came to dominate Korea internally. The third alternative was an alliance or tie with a distant, non-threatening power to help protect security. And as early as the first decade of the 20th century, the King of Korea did ask the United States to help protect Korea against Japanese imperialism. But we didn't have an interest at that time in the invasion. I think in more recent times, there's been an effort on the part of Korean leadership to combine alternatives 2 and 3, to try to improve relations with neighbors while maintaining the alliance with the United States. And in my opinion, that is a logical position to take today. And with the exception, partial exception of Japan, South Korea's relations with its neighbors have been improving in recent times. And now I think there's a possibility of improvement in Japanese-ROK relations. So let me conclude by saying that while the issues to be resolved, while the details still warrant intensive and continuous negotiation, and no one can be certain of the outcome, I think we are on the threshold of a new era. Thank you very much.